New Orleans Saints sixth-round running back Devin Neal could be one of the steals of the 2025 NFL Draft. We got all that and a little bit of lanyap for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, we have some questions from our insiders. We'll take a few of those, including whether or not the New Orleans Saints are going to do some interesting and innovative things on the offense. I do think that the RPO is absolutely on its way to New Orleans. We're also going to take a look today at Devin Neal, the sixth-round running back that could be a steal for the New Orleans Saints, what it is that stands in front of him and what opportunity he has ahead of him. But we'll kick everything off with what it is that he brings to the team, leading off with just a little bit of durability. We appreciate you very much, as always, for being here with us. And of course, whether it's your first time or your next time being here with us, this time making us your first listen and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. You get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Devin Neal could very, very well be the steal or one of the steals of the 2025 NFL Draft and be the steal of the New Orleans Saints Draft. It's not very often that we talk about a sixth-round player being somebody that could be a major contributor at some point during his rookie contract on an NFL team. That doesn't happen very often. There's been some guys that we've hoped that that would be the case with. A.T. Perry drafted a little bit later in the draft, all these other pieces. But I really think that Devin Neal, and a lot of people agree, can be a very, very good NFL player. He has the versatility that you want in terms of somebody that can not only run the football, but that can catch out of the backfield, that can pass protect, all of those pieces. But the other thing that he brings to this team is durability. Appeared in 50 games over the course of his collegiate career, and during that time did not miss a single game due to injury. Sorry, he played 49 of 50 eligible games. He was eligible for 50. The only game that he didn't appear in was a game that he opted out of at the end of his career, which was just a bowl game that he didn't take part in and got ready for his NFL draft process and everything, which makes perfect sense for the young running back. Who saw over 1,000 yards in each of the last 3 seasons, who saw 16 rushing touchdowns in each of the last 2 seasons, and had 9 rushing touchdowns the year before that. He has been someone that has been all over the place for Kansas in terms of somebody that can do all the different types of things that you need a running back to be able to do, and does them all extremely effectively while also producing like crazy as a running back. 1,090 yards in 2022, 1,280 yards in 2023, 1,266 yards in 2024, and the scoring potential is absolutely off the charts. Appeared in 49 career games, scored 49 career rushing touchdowns, added 4 receiving touchdowns as well, and averaged 9.23 yards per catch. In addition to that, was a team captain for at least 1 year. Yeah, he was a team captain last year. Was somebody that has been honorable mention Big 12. Then all of a sudden he was a second team all Big 12. Then he became an honorable mention Big 12 again. And then has been somebody that leads in all these franchise and holds all these franchise records for rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, scoring, all of these other pieces. Devin Neal is a productive player while also being incredibly versatile to boot. And then one of my favorite things about him is that he has proven that he can be a workhorse style player, in that he's somebody that you can lean on, that will pick up all of these rushing yards and go out there and be that guy for you, but also average just 190 carries per year, with 219 being the most, while putting together that high level of production that he did. Incredibly impressive player in Devin Neal. The 5'11", 213-pound running back, great size for the position. 4.58, 40-yard speed, not great straight line speed in that 40-yard dash, but you could see a little bit more of the speed when you watch him break away in games. You can kind of see a little bit more of the play speed there for him as well. So he's got good size. He's got good speed, good explosion as well. 37.5-inch vertical jump along with a 10-foot 4-inch broad jump. That's all lower body power, leg power. That's what you want from that running back position as a guy that could run between the tackles and outside, but certainly somebody that with all of this power, all of this vision that he also brings to the team and the patience that he brings to the game as well, allowing things to develop in front of him, all that, the versatile kind of attack of Kellen Moore's rushing offense, which doesn't really focus on the outside run, but doesn't really focus on the inside run either, mixes and matches a whole lot of different things, changes based upon the matchup that's presented in front of them. Devin Neal is a great fit when it comes to exactly that piece. One of my favorite things that I love seeing anytime that I watch his tape is his vision. Well, I guess it's two things. It's his vision as well as his patience. He has this sort of, and I want to be careful when I say things like this, but he has kind of this Le'Veon Bell-esque type of vision and patience, right? I'm not talking about him being a Le'Veon Bell peak level player. He might be in the pros. We don't know. We'll find out. But you remember watching Le'Veon Bell, the way he would like have a hand on the back of his lead blocker and waiting for things to develop, kind of hiding behind that guy and then breaking based upon which gap is chosen by the closing defender, watching and allowing the offensive line to open up those run lanes for him and everything, letting the play fully develop. I think that that is going to work so well with what it is that Kellen Moore's scheme is going to want in order for its run game to open up those home runs. When I spoke with TJ Paganetti, the New Orleans Saints run game coordinator during, was that OTAs or minicamp? I think it was OTAs. During OTAs, he talked a lot about that's what it is that this team wants to do. The goal of this team in the run game is not just to pick up an incremental 3 or 4 yards here, which is great to do, and they will also do, but the goal in this run game is to block plays to allow the running backs to hit home run runs. That's what they want. They want the breakaways. They want the big plays. They want the explosive runs. They want a dynamic run game that's going to be able to create those opportunities for running backs. And so obviously a lot of that falls back on starting running back Alvin Kamara. You would imagine that third-year running back Kendre Miller, if he stays healthy, is going to be in that conversation as well. Cam Akers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the veterans that are in the room, as well as some of the other young guys that are a part of this kind of conversation when it comes to who are going to be the New Orleans Saints running backs in 2025. But Devin Neal is firmly entrenched in that conversation and has that skill set, the patience, the vision, the breakaway ability, the ability to run through tacklers, the toughness in terms of what it takes to take him down, the way that he distributes his balance or distributes his weight in order to create that contact balance. All of those things are going to put him right in the mix of being one of those guys that might be able to take advantage of that home run hitting that this run game wants to do as it develops over the course of the next few years. He's got a leadership mentality. He's a guy that loves accountability and holding the guys around him accountable as well. So if his role grows and grows and grows, that he becomes a starting back and a focal point for this offense at some point in his career, he will be the vocal guy that will also bring the other guys along with him as a leader. I think all of that is really quality stuff. And you're getting a guy in there who is Kansas's all-time lead rusher and ranks number 5 in the conference history of the Big 12 in rushing yards. You're getting somebody that knows what it's like to produce at a historic pace and is looking to bring that to the NFL. I'm not saying that this guy is going to be the Saints' next, all-time leading rusher. I'm not saying he's going to be, an NFL leading rusher in a single season. That's a lot of expectation to put on a young man that's coming into his first career year in the NFL. But he is absolutely a player will be 22 years old when the season starts, turns 22 in August. That has a lot of promise and a lot of potential. And that promise and potential is going to put him firmly in the mix to be the number 2 running back behind Alvin Kamara. What stands in his way and what does he need to do to get over those hurdles? Let's get into that next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by friends at Game Time. Look, we've all been there. I know I certainly have, and it's one of the most frustrating experiences ever when you're waiting and you log on early for, your favorite band or some big event that's got tickets going on sale, and then all of a sudden even though you're sitting there and you're ready to go, you lose your place in line, and then you end up all the way in the back, and then bang, you're never able to get those tickets. That is why I exclusively use Game Time to buy tickets to my favorite sports, concerts, comedy, events, theater, whatever it is that you're looking for. I go straight to Game Time now, because even as the event gets closer, the tickets get more affordable. You can save up to 60% with killer last minute deals, including zone deals and even more. I love Game Time. Don't worry about all that other stuff. Head over to Game Time today and take all that guesswork out of buying your favorite concert or show or sports tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, family. Devin Neal has a big opportunity ahead of him here in 2025 to maybe even take the reins as the New Orleans Saints number 2 running back. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Ross, how can he be one of the steals of the draft, but then be the number 2 running back in New Orleans? Well, it's because Alvin Kamara is the number 1 guy, right? Like, we all know that. But really, the steal of the NFL draft, or one of the steals of the draft, comes down to what he grows into over the course of his rookie contract. But it could begin for him in a big way in 2025. The Saints have not had a running back be their second leading rusher since Latavius Murray in 2020. I'm going to say that again. The New Orleans Saints have not had a running back be their second leading rusher since Latavius Murray in 2020. Every single year since then, 2021, 2022, 3, 4, it's all been Taysom Hill behind Alvin Kamara. The New Orleans Saints are not always going to have Taysom Hill, and they certainly are not always going to have a player like Taysom Hill. And so finding another running back that can be a quality and consistent producer behind Alvin Kamara would be a huge win for the New Orleans Saints. I expect that to be Kendre Miller this year, but Devin Neal, well, I expect that to be Kendre Miller if he's healthy, stays on the field, all those other things. Cam Akers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be next after that because of the veterans. But Devin Neal absolutely has an inside track to that job. The durability, the level of production, the vision, the patience, the coachability, the leadership, the character, it's all there for Devin Neal to be somebody that ends up stepping in right behind Alvin Kamara with that scheme versatility that he has, can run inside, can run outside, can run the man run, the gap scheme, can run the zone scheme as well. There's a lot of ways that Devin Neal could immediately contribute to this team and still be seen, even if he doesn't become the number 1 rusher for this team right away, which is not going to happen unless Alvin Kamara, can't play. Outside of that, but even in that case, with a healthy Alvin Kamara, Devin Neal can still prove to be a steal in this draft, especially considering he was drafted in the 6th round, which is kind of insane. And so, looking at that opportunity that now rests ahead of Devin Neal, what stands in his way? 2 big things that are kind of inherent to any rookie experience. The players that are already there, understanding and learning the new scheme with the new coaching staff. Those are going to be the biggest things. Nothing out of the ordinary stands in the way of Devin Neal. It's not a situation where you have those 2 things against you, just like every other rookie, but also, you're not the greatest, you don't have the greatest vision, or you don't have the most patience, or you don't know how to run and stay low and win with pad level, win with leverage and all these things. This is all stuff that Devin Neal does well, that he already has in his bag. And I think that is part of why I'm so high on him. And I think it's part of why so many Saints fans are high on him as well, because they kind of see the vision here, no pun intended, of what it is that Devin Neal could potentially grow into. So now the biggest thing is just, does he show up during training camp? Like, can he learn the system fast enough to be able to be impactful enough during camp that he's undeniable in terms of deserving of opportunity? There's 2 ways that this goes for Devin Neal as a 6th round pick. He's a surprise at that area, or you don't have the expectation that he makes the roster. That's typically the experience of a 6th round pick. You come in as a 6th round pick, and typically the expectation is like, he might make the roster. He'll have to contribute on special teams, yada, 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 all these other things. That's not the way we're talking about Devin Neal. We're talking about Devin Neal as somebody that has a legitimate opportunity in front of him to be a core piece of the Saints offense and a core piece of that running back rotation. And the Saints desperately need that. And they need some consistency from what that is. Ever since Latavius Murray, the Saints have not had a reliable second running back behind Alvin Kamara. They brought back Mark Ingram. He was on and off the field, dealing with injuries, all those other things. They turned it over. They drafted Kendre Miller. That didn't work out. His first year, dealing with injuries, all this other stuff. They go back to him his second year, same thing. They turned to other running backs and all. They had to go to Tony Jones Jr. for a little while and these other guys. It just has not been, it's been a bit of a rotation, but a bit of a carousel as opposed to a rotation behind Alvin Kamara. And so that's why Taysom Hill has become and had so many opportunities, because he's been the most reliable playmaker for the team. And he's been the most reliable rusher for the team behind Alvin Kamara. And the numbers for the seasons have reflected that in the recent past. And so I think the Saints desperately need somebody else to produce from running back, and Devin Neal has the capability to do that. So when it comes down to the talent that's ahead of him, obviously you're looking at Kendre Miller going into a third year, being given a clean slate. We'd probably be talking about Kendre Miller's season last year a little bit differently had that second IR stint not happened, which, as I understand it, didn't need to happen. Many people within the building believe that Kendre Miller would have been ready the very next week, right after that New York Giants game where he did score the touchdowns and all the other stuff, and kind of had this impressive showing and kind of felt all of that relief. People felt after it was the Carolina game where he, it was the Carolina game where he could have been ready or whatever it was. Like, he came off that second stint in injured reserve and then looked really good. Like, what if he could have gotten back to the field even earlier than that after the Chargers game and all those other things? So there's a lot of those pieces that are, missing in terms of what could have happened for Kendre Miller last year. And maybe we'd be talking about his year and his career trajectory a little bit differently because of that. But instead, what we're looking at is, can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the field? If he does, then I think he's a shoe-in to be your second rusher. He'll be able to provide you the inside zone, breakaway, big-time playmaker, home run hitter style that I think TJ Paganetti, that was insane that I just said that. PJ Taganetti, really? TJ Paganetti wants for this team. That reminds me, that throws me back to the days when Lucas Kroll was on the roster, and I kept calling him Nick Kroll. Ugh, those are the days. But anyway, so he'll be able to provide that style of rusher to what it is that Kellen Moore and TJ Paganetti are looking to do in the run game. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as well as Cam Akers, as well as Velus Jones Jr. are all veteran players to watch as well. That could be core contributors or part of the contribution behind Alvin Kamara. I think Velus Jones Jr. and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are the ones that play a little bit more of the Alvin Kamara versatile scat back role. Somebody you can throw to out of the backfield. Marcus Yarns too. Somebody you could throw to out of the backfield that runs the outside zone, all those other things. Although I think Edwards-Helaire can do a little bit more than that too. Meanwhile, I think Cam Akers gives you another between the tackles bruiser of a rusher that can also catch the football. And so more Mark Ingram-esque in Cam Akers. And then Devin Neal is somebody that kind of is more all around and kind of not blurs the line, but kind of blends all the styles, if you will. And so puts them in a really advantageous position to do whatever they want with him on the field. Like, he's a good disguise player in that way. And so I think that he's got to show that. He's got to show up and show out during training camp, show that he can hit the right hole, that he can read the blockers in front of him, that he can read the defense, make the right decisions, and contribute in a variety of different ways. And then I think there's a good chance that by the end of the season, we're talking about Devin Neal being a guy that comes into focus a little bit more in this New Orleans Saints run game. So that the opportunity for him is absolutely there. So are the hurdles. But starting in training camp, he's got an opportunity to start to leap those. Coming up next, I want to go to our insiders with some great questions. Starting off with, could we see some innovative stuff with Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler under center, including the RPO game? I think so, and I'll tell you why as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Expect the RPO to show up in the New Orleans Saints offense in 2025. We got some great questions from our insider group, which you can join by texting Who Dat to 504-285-7473 or clicking the link in the description below. I'll give you some one-on-one conversation with me, film studies, Q&As, access to things like this where we take questions in the insider group and do them here on the show, get you some shout outs, all that kind of stuff. $4.99 a month, but I try to make it all worth it for you. Buy me a cup of coffee a month and I give you some extra content. That's kind of the hope here. And especially with training camp coming around and everything like that, some advanced information, some insider conversations, things like that you also get, especially with the team going on the road for a little while to California. So let's start off with Terry's question. I had to start off with Terry. It's July 4th. Happy Independence Day to everybody. Put it in reverse, Terry. We had to go with Terry here. But Terry asked a really interesting question. Do you see the Saints offense utilizing a veer style offense with Tyler Shough at coordinator and the plethora of options at running back and speedy receivers, more or less running things like RPO, triple option styles, things like that we might be seeing. So I will say this. I don't think you're going to see the triple option. I don't think you'll ever see the triple option in the NFL until the NFL finds a way to keep its quarterbacks healthy, right? Like the NFL already has a health problem. The NFL already has a problem with keeping quarterbacks healthy in particular. And we all know that the way that you defend the triple option offense is hit the quarterback every play. And I don't think the NFL is willing to put the biggest contracts, hundreds of millions of dollars on the line to run the triple option offense. Triple option also takes a whole lot of time to develop and install and teach one version of the play and how to run it perfectly. To teach an entire playbook of that is, or even to mix it in with the rest of your playbook, it's too cumbersome. It's very time consuming, all those other things. So I don't think you'll see NFL teams, including the New Orleans Saints, running the triple option. However, RPOs, absolutely something that I would be watching for. If you go back to Tyler Shough's Oregon case, I was actually just talking about this with another insider the other day. But if you go back to Tyler Shough's Oregon days, he ran a lot of that RPO stuff. And so I think you can see that in what it is that he does. Jalen Hurts ran a good bit of RPO work with the Philadelphia Eagles last year under Kellen Moore. So I absolutely think that you're going to see that in New Orleans and in Kellen Moore's offense, which could be a lot of fun. And honestly, like that's not limited to Tyler Shough. I think you're going to be looking at Spencer Rattler doing some of that as well. And remember everything about what Kellen Moore has talked about before, finding things from college and stealing it, finding things from the NFL and stealing it, finding things from high school football and stealing it. Like the veer offense is one of those prep football things that is a lot of triple option, which I don't think that you'll see, but there are some elements of it that could be interesting and that you can innovate off of to create something and then maybe bolster this RPO read option game, things like that. So I would absolutely expect that to certainly be a part of what it is that the Saints will be doing, not so much the triple option part of it. All right, let's go to our next question here from Brandon, who says, please explain the cap rollover thing and how it works. I thought that it was pretty rigid. Doesn't seem like you can add to the cap like it's a savings account. Great question. So here's the way that the salary cap works. Basically, the idea is that the salary cap is a hard cap that is set for every team. However, you can go above that cap limit. But the only way you can move above that cap limit is by rolling over money from the previous year to the next year. So I'm going to make the numbers really simple here. Let's say that the salary cap was set at $100 million, right? Nice and easy. You can't spend $105 million if your cap limit is set at $100 million, but you can raise what's called your effective cap space, which is cap space that encompasses and includes rollovers from the previous year, as well as money that you've already spent, money that you're probably going to spend, all these other things. You can impact your cap ceiling above the salary cap by rolling over unused money from the previous year. So if your salary cap is $100 million, but you can roll over $10 million from the previous year, then your individual team's effective salary cap maximum space becomes $110 million in that case, $100 million plus the $10 million that you roll over. So the cap is a hard limit. You can't change that number and you can't go above that number if that's your highest point. But you can basically build a little bit of cushion above that number, which then becomes the maximum that you can exceed by rolling unspent money from the previous year over into this year. So hopefully that helps. It's a little bit different than saying like, oh, it's $10 million more that you get to spend. That's kind of right. But really what it is that you're just like surplusing on top of it, right? So it's not necessarily building it up like a savings account, but it's kind of like getting rollover minutes from your singular wireless bill. Whew, I hope someone understood that. But like you used to have, a certain amount of minutes that you could use on your cell phone, but then you had rollover minutes that raised what that limit was. So you always had a base of this that you could spend, but then you could also bring some stuff over month to month. Same thing happens when it comes to the salary cap. And there you go. That is my singular wireless reference for everyone that is tuned in today. Let's move on as quickly as possible. Let's go to Stan, who asked, with such a large draft class, which UDFA has the best chance of making the 53-man roster, if any. I think guys to watch include Jasheem Davis, the edge rusher out of Wake Forest, Tyreen Powell, the linebacker out of Rutgers, and Easton Kilty, the offensive lineman out of Kansas State, previously of North Dakota State University. I think they all have the talent, the opportunity, and they're all at positions that could use an extra body or so, and that maybe could see some flux and some opportunity. So they've got the talent, they have the availability, and they play at the position that provides the opportunity. I think those are some of the three most important things. They're all guys that could also contribute special teams wise, whether as additional blockers or different responsibilities, things like that. So I think that could absolutely get them there as well. By the way, the salary cap question was from Brandon. I can't remember if I said Brandon's name or not. Sorry about that. And then finally, we'll go to Alan here. Going into training camp, who are your special team stars in those final 5 to 7 roster spots? So I'm going to run through this pretty quick because I'm not going to count guys like JT Gray, Rashid Shaheed, Zach Wood, punter kicker. Like, we know that they're on the roster. So I'm going to go Rico Payton, who I think is the gunner opposite JT Gray. Nephi Sewell, who's as close to being a special teams captain as far as I'm concerned without being a special teams captain. An underrated name that I watch out for is UFL cornerback Jayden Price, really good punt returner at that level, maybe something to watch to relieve Rashid Shaheed of some of those duties. And then when it comes to personal protector, I'd watch Ugo Amadi, Jordan Howden, especially while Taysom Hill is managing injury. So I think those guys have those opportunities on special teams. All right, I'm going to take the weekend. Enjoy the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, everybody. Thank you very much. Hope you have a wonderful and safe weekend. Go join the Insider program. You won't regret it. Go and check out Locked On Pels for the latest on your Pelicans in the meanwhile. We appreciate you very much. As always, make this part of your day, part of your routine for saying yes to me and the show. If you see me, please say hi. If you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know what the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation. I'll holla at you.